Why would an apartment complex require renter's insurance? It's because their insurance only covers the buildings and their property. Neither they nor their insurance companies want to get involved with providing coverage for a steady stream of tenants whose property may vary from little or nothing of significant value to rare antiques and valuable art collections. It's also unlikely that all tenants would be happy accepting their landlord's insurance policy for their personal property. So given that it makes no sense for the landlord to provide insurance coverage for tenants' personal property, why do they require that the tenants provide proof of renter's insurance? Where this occurs, it's because the landlord does not want to have to deal with lawsuits over damage to tenant property in general. In cases where they may be liable for such damage, they would prefer that the insurance companies sort it out rather than have an adversarial relationship with their tenant. As a renter, it's not a bad idea to have such coverage anyway. It's cheap unless you have a lot of expensive and valuable stuff, and even then it's still cheap, since if you can afford $250,000 worth of household furnishings, you can also afford the insurance and would be a bit foolish to take the risk. So, all they are doing is taking steps to ensure a good relationship with their tenants and requiring them to do something that is in their own best interests anyway. Landlords are people and organizations pretty much like any others. There are good, bad, and awful. In my experience, the renter's insurance requirement is more typical of the good ones for the reasons stated above. We require renter's insurance for renters for a few reasons. The first is because if something happens to your personal property while you are living in one of our rentals, we can't replace those items. For $10 minus $20 a month, renter's insurance is cheap, and it covers a lot. We don't have much stuff. But I don't have the funds to replace our personal property if, let's say, there was a fire or a flood. I will give you an example. We had a tenant who changed out a breaker in their breaker box. They weren't a licensed electrician and used the wrong kind. The house caught on fire, and it was deemed the tenant's fault, as it should have been. They filed an insurance claim instead of having to pay out of pocket to get the house repaired. It was a pain in the butt, but without insurance, unfortunately, we would have had to take the tenant to court to recoup the losses from their mistake. The best way to find renter's insurance is to go through your car insurance company, if you have one. We actually pay the same amount of money a month as we did for just our car insurance due to multi-policy discounts. The apartment complex would typically not be responsible for replacing your personal property items in the event of a loss. To help protect both interests, they would require the renter's insurance. It's usually cheap insurance, $10 to $20 a month. Renter's insurance also provides general liability coverage. Honestly, it's not a bad thing that they require it. It's always best to be on the safe side and have renter's insurance to protect your interests. Mainly because they do not want to pay for any liability claims arising from guests you have over or things you might do that can lead to a lawsuit. They usually want to be named as an additional insured, with your policy being the primary.